All right, let's dive into some serious wisdom. Monk wisdom, to be precise.
Oh, yeah, we're getting deep today.
Today we're exploring Jay Shetty's Think Like a Monk.
Love that book.
We've got excerpts. We're peeking into the bibliography.
Using everything we can.
Our mission is to break down those monk mindset secrets.
Absolutely.
See how they apply to, well, your life, everyday life.
It's amazing how Shetty doesn't expect you to, like, shave your head.
Right.
Become a monk or anything.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Of course not. But he's more about the essence of that mindset. The stuff that gets you inner peace, purpose.
Yeah. For sure. We could all use a little more of that.
Couldn't we?
100%.
Right.
And he starts with his own story.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not your typical monk story.
Not at all.
I mean, the guy goes to a monk's talk.
Uh-huh.
Because his friend bribed him with a bar trip afterwards.
Sounds like my kind of friend.
Right.
So talk about preconceived notions. He thought it'd be a lecture on, like, deprivation and stuff.
Yeah.
But he was captivated, like completely captivated. The monk was talking about selfless sacrifice, but in a way that, like, energized him,
Interesting.
He even said something like, the thrill of planting trees knowing you might never sit in their shade.
Whoa.
Powerful, right?
That is a perspective shift.
It is.
And you start thinking, what are the little things we're doing?
Right.
That can have a ripple effect, down the line.
Makes you think long term.
But here's the thing. This book, it's not about becoming a monk overnight.
No.
It's a journey, 3 stages: letting go, growing, giving.
3 solid steps.
I like to think of it like decluttering your mind,
Okay.
then filling it up with the good stuff,
Yeah.
and then finally putting it all to good use out in the world.
Love that. Putting it to good use.
Right.
Okay, so to help you understand, how cluttered our minds can get, Shetty uses this metaphor, this brilliant metaphor, a dusty mirror.
Okay. Represents our identity.
Yeah.
Our identity is a dusty mirror. Imagine that, covered in dust.
Can't even see yourself.
Exactly.
So all that stuff, the stuff we're bombarded with constantly, from parents, social media, all of it.
It's like dust, obscuring the real you.
Obscuring. That's a good word.
Right.
And often that stuff doesn't even align with who we really are.
Not even close.
Barry talks about how his parents,
Uh-huh.
like many parents, they equated success with, becoming a doctor or a lawyer.
Classic.
Right. Think about your own life, though. Those external pressures. What were some for you?
Oh, wow.
I mean, maybe it was a career path,
Could be.
a certain lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
Even just fitting into a certain mold. You know what I mean?
I feel that. I feel that a lot.
Yeah. And the courage it takes to break free from those expectations, to follow your own WN path.
Definitely. It's not easy.
No.
Shetty even faced backlash for choosing, the monk life over a conventional path. People said he was brainwashed.
Yeah, but that's where that monk mindset comes in, that letting go part.
Okay.
It's about recognizing those influences,
Right.
those external influences, seeing how they might be, clouding your judgment, making conscious choices.
Yeah.
To clear the dust.
Clear the dust. I like that. See your true reflection.
See yourself.
So then you can actually see who you are.
Who you really are, yeah.
Okay.
And you might be surprised by what you discover. Underneath all that dust could be passions you buried, values you compromised,
Yeah.
or even just a sense of clarity about what matters to you.
That's powerful.
It is.
But how do we clear that dust?
Right. It's a good question.
It's not like a magic cloth.
No magic involved here.
No. You can't just wipe away years of, conditioning.
That's where the monk mindset tools come in.
Oh, I like that.
And one of the first things Shetty tackles is negativity.
Okay.
And he doesn't hold back, calls it a contagious disease.
A contagious disease.
Yeah. He introduces this concept, Seto Darpana Marjanam. It's from Hindu philosophy. Basically means clearing the impure mirror of the mind.
So it's like that dusty mirror, but instead of dust.
It's all the negative thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
The complaining, the comparing, the criticizing.
Oh, that gunk.
Yes. Gunk clouding your perspective.
Distorting how you see everything.
And here's the thing. Negativity, it spreads like a virus.
Oh, no.
Have you ever noticed being around a complainer? You know the type.
Oh, yeah.
It can tank your mood.
100%.
Shetty even cites research showing that humans, we tend to conform even when the group is wrong.
Really?
We literally catch negativity from others.
That is both fascinating and terrifying.
I know.
Explains why monks are so intentional with their words.
They are, aren't they?
They choose them carefully, knowing the impact they can have.
It's like they're masters of spot, stop, swap.
Okay.
They spot a negative thought, stop it in its tracks, and swap it for something positive.
Okay.
It's a skill we can all learn.
You think so?
I do. Imagine your day if you just, consciously replaced negativity with gratitude, appreciation, even neutrality.
Okay, that's a challenge I'm up for.
Good.
But what about fear?
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one, a huge one.
Big one. Shetty starts that chapter with a quote from Buddha. Fear does not prevent death. It prevents life.
Wow.
Heavy, right?
Yeah. It's like fear stops us from trying new things, speaking our truth, pursuing those dreams,
Holds us back.
It really does. He uses this story of Arjuna from the Bhagavad Gita,
Oh, you love that
this
too.
warrior, right? Paralyzed by fear on the battlefield.
Yeah. Shows that fear. It can hit anyone.
Anyone.
Doesn't matter how brave you seem on the outside.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And to show just how deep those fears can be.
Yeah.
Shetty gets personal, shares his own experience.
Oh, wow.
Through meditation, he figured out all these separate fears, exams, getting in trouble, even conflict between his parents.
Mm-hmm.
They all stem from one root fear, the fear of disappointing his parents.
Oh, deep, deep stuff.
Like a tree with all those branches.
Yes,
All coming from the same trunk.
exactly. And speaking of trees, he uses this analogy of trees in biosphere too, this closed environment.
Okay.
They grew tall, but they weren't strong because there was never any wind.
Interesting.
Makes you think about the winds we're avoiding in our lives. Are we
Yep.
so focused on being comfortable, secure, that we miss out on the challenges that could make us stronger?
Right. So then it becomes like, are we avoiding challenges to our detriment?
He even brings up Alex Honnold, the guy who free solo climbed El Capitan.
Crazy.
Honnold doesn't try to suppress fear. He uses it as fuel for preparation.
So it's not about being fearless.
Yeah.
It's about changing our relationship with it.
Exactly. He even quotes Chuck Palahniuk, "Find what you're afraid of most and go live there."
Oh.
It's a challenge.
It is a challenge. Face your fears head on. See them as opportunities, not obstacles.
Yeah. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
He links fear with attachment, our clinging to things, ideas, people. It fuels the fear.
Interesting.
He talks about the monks and detachment.
Okay.
It's this idea that everything is borrowed. It's not about giving up everything you love, but recognizing that change, it's inevitable.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection here.
Good.
So by letting go of that need to control everything,
Yeah,
we free ourselves from the fear of losing it.
exactly. He gives an example of a friend who lost his job. And instead of panicking, he saw it as a chapter in a larger story.
I like that. A chapter, or
Yeah.
the whole book.
It's like those entrepreneur stories,
Uh-huh.
facing a ton of rejections, but then they find success.
Yeah.
Those rejections, as painful as they are,
Yeah.
they became stepping stones.
Okay.
It's powerful reframing those experiences.
Yeah.
Setbacks aren't isolated events.
Right.
They're part of a larger narrative.
A story that's still being written.
Exactly. And that brings us to purpose.
Yes. We talked about letting go of negativity, facing our fears.
Yeah.
But how do we actually find our purpose, our dharma?
Good question. Shetty argues it's not about searching for it. It's already inside you,
Whoa.
like a seed waiting to sprout. He found his own WN Dharma through a public speaking club in college.
Oh, wow.
He started with a simple topic, material problems, spiritual solutions.
Catchy.
Right.
I like it.
And he used humor and modern examples to make ancient wisdom relatable.
Makes sense.
His talks, they resonated. The club grew. He ended up speaking to thousands of people about mindfulness and meditation.
That's amazing.
So you see, our passions,
Yeah.
when we nurture them, share them, they blossom, they become something meaningful.
Yeah, for sure.
To help you tap into your own potential, he uses this idea, the quadrant of potential.
Okay, I like the sound of this.
You ask yourself 4 questions.
Hit me.
Do you like your job?
Number 1.
Are you good at it?
Number 2, do other people need and appreciate your work?
Okay, 3.
And is your greatest skill or passion outside of your work? Wow. 4 really thought-provoking questions.
They get you thinking about where your talents and passions meet, with what the world needs.
That intersection point.
That's where your dharma might be, waiting for you.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
But how do we know if we're actually good at something?
right. Sometimes it's hard to tell if we're,
Fooling ourselves.
fooling ourselves. Yeah.
Exactly.
Shetty says, get feedback. from others, people you trust, people who'll be honest, give you constructive criticism.
Okay. I can see how that's valuable.
He also introduces this idea of the 4 varnas: guides, leaders, creators, and makers.
Varnas. Okay, what are those?
It's a way to understand your natural strengths and your motivations,
So they're like different personality types.
each with their own skills, their own way of being in the world.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And understanding your varna,
Yep.
it can help you focus on those strengths
Yeah.
and build teams with people who have skills that complement yours.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Like recognizing your unique talents and then collaborating with others, you can achieve so much more together.
Absolutely. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
It really does. Okay, this is getting good.
Now we're talking.
Huh.
And now we come to one of the most fundamental things about the monk mindset: mastering the mind.
Mastering the mind. It sounds intense.
Imagine your mind like a jungle, thoughts swinging from branch to branch, like monkeys, chaotic, distracting.
Okay, I can definitely picture that. There's a constant chatter in my head. Makes it so hard to focus.
That's the untrained mind. But Shetty says you can tame those monkeys, quiet the mind, find stillness.
Okay.
He even shares this funny story about his own struggles with meditation. Thought he was doing it wrong because these thoughts kept popping up.
Really?
Yeah. But that's the thing about meditation. It's not about emptying your mind completely. It's about observing those thoughts without judgment, letting them come and go like clouds.
Oh, okay. So instead of getting all tangled up in those thoughts
You just acknowledge them.
and let them float on by.
Exactly. It takes practice, but with effort, you can train your mind to be calmer, more focused, and more present.
We're present. That sounds nice.
And that presence, that ability to quiet your mind, focus on the here and now, that's what lets you truly appreciate life, experience its richness.
But what about the ego?
The ego.
We hear so much about the ego, but what is it exactly?
Okay. Shetty separates it into 2 parts. The true ego.
Okay.
That's your essence, your core self. And then there's the false ego, the identity we build up
So like the mask we wear for the world
to protect ourselves.
to get validation.
Exactly. But that mask, it becomes a burden.
And Shetty says the unchecked ego, it leads to arrogance, entitlement, the constant need to prove yourself.
He tells the story of these 4 monks.
Okay.
They break their vow of silence to brag about being the only ones who stayed silent.
Wow, the irony.
Right. Shows how easily the ego tricks us into contradicting our own values, our intentions.
Okay, so then what's the antidote to this ego problem?
Humility. Recognizing that we're all works in progress, always learning, growing. And that brings us to one of my favorite monk mindset tools: visualization.
Visualization. Okay, I've heard about it, but I'm not really sure how it works.
Shetty describes it as a way to heal the past and prepare for the future.
Heal the past. Okay.
He suggests using guided visualizations to revisit past experiences and reframe them with a positive lens.
Interesting.
He even guides the reader through a visualization. You're walking through a peaceful garden.
Oh, nice.
Connecting with your senses evokes calm, tranquility.
It's like creating mental movies to change how we feel.
Kind of, yeah. And he says visualizing positive outcomes. It can help you overcome fear, achieve your goals.
So you're harnessing the power of your mind to shape your experiences.
But it's not about living in a fantasy world.
Right.
It's about using visualization to tap into your inner resources, to create real change.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've covered negativity, fear, purpose, and now visualization.
We're on a roll.
We are on a roll. What about gratitude? Where does that fit in?
Gratitude. It's fundamental to the monk mindset. It's not just about saying thank you. It's a way of looking at the world, a deep appreciation for everything you have.
Okay, so it's more than a feeling. It's a practice.
It is.
But how do we cultivate gratitude when, life gets tough, throws those curveballs?
It's definitely a challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to be grateful when things are going great. But when you're facing hardship,
Yeah.
it's a lot harder.
Shetty shares a story. A monk class.
Okay.
The students were asked to reflect on all the things they've been given, the basics, love, support from others. It reminds you of the abundance we often take for granted,
That's so true. We always focus on what we lack.
instead of appreciating what we have.
Right.
But he has a great tip for shifting perspective when things go wrong. Instead of dwelling on what you've lost,
Yeah.
you tell yourself, there's more for me out there. It's about an abundance mindset, not scarcity.
I like that.
Yeah.
There's more for me out there.
It's about being open to new possibilities, trusting that, the universe has your back.
I love that. The universe has your back.
And don't forget expressing gratitude to others. When someone says thank you,
Yeah.
don't let your ego inflate. Acknowledge their kindness and express gratitude right back.
It creates a positive feedback loop.
It does, like those pay it forward stories. One act of kindness leading to another. Positive ripple effect.
Exactly. And he uses this beautiful analogy of salt dissolving in water.
Okay.
When you only focus on your pain, it feels huge, like a glass of salty water.
Makes sense.
But when you broaden your perspective, embrace the vastness of life,
Yeah.
that pain becomes less intense, like salt dissolving in a lake.
It's a beautiful way to think about it.
It reminds us our perspective shapes how we experience things. Okay, so we've talked about negativity, fear, purpose, gratitude.
We're moving right along.
We are, but what about relationships?
Relationships.
We're social creatures, right? Our connection with others, they play a huge role in our happiness, our well-being.
Huge. And Shetty, he dedicates a big chunk of his book to the monk's perspective on this.
Okay, so what's the monk's take on relationships?
Strong connections are key.
That makes sense.
He says humans, we're like redwood trees. We thrive in these interconnected communities.
We need each other.
Oh.
And not just for practical support,
Yeah.
emotional and spiritual nourishment, too.
He compares the ashram to those blue zones.
Oh, I've heard of those. The
Yeah.
places where people live crazy, long, healthy lives.
Right. It's often attributed to their sense of community, their social connections.
Strong connections, yeah.
Exactly. And at the heart of those strong connections,
Yeah.
it's trust.
Trust. That's a tricky one, though, isn't it?
It can be.
I mean, we've all experienced betrayal, disappointment in relationships.
So how do we know WHO to trust? How do we build it over time?
That's the million-dollar question.
Shetty breaks trust down into 4 stages.
4 stages. Okay, I'm listening.
Intentional trust. That's the starting point. You choose to believe in someone's good intentions.
Okay, makes sense.
And you have contractual trust, relying on agreements, expectations.
Right.
Next is mutual trust,
Uh-huh.
built on understanding and shared experiences.
Okay.
And finally, pure trust,
The holy grail.
unconditional, knowing they have your best interests at heart.
That's beautiful, but also probably pretty rare.
It is. It's like a ladder, you know.
I like that. Each stage building on the one before.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
makes you think about where you are on that ladder.
For sure. And not putting blind faith in people who haven't earned it.
Exactly. He even cites research about how often people are dishonest, even in small interactions.
Oh, well.
So pay attention to actions, not just words.
Actions speak louder than words. I like that. Okay, so be discerning with your trust, but also be open to letting it develop organically.
Over time. And he cautions against projecting your values and expectations onto others.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Everyone experiences relationships differently.
So true. We can't expect everyone to operate by the same rules or have the same needs as us.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what about romantic relationships?
Romantic relationships, the big one.
Yeah, the big one. What does it take to find and nurture, lasting love?
Shetty says, understand what truly attracts you to others.
Okay.
He acknowledges that initial attraction, often superficial, looks, success, intellect.
Right, that initial spark.
But those alone, they don't guarantee a fulfilling, lasting
You
connection.
got to look deeper, right, beyond the surface.
Exactly. He says, look for emotional, spiritual, even energetic compatibility.
I like that. Energetic compatibility.
Do you share values, goals, ways of expressing love? Do you feel energized by each other? Do you support each other's growth?
These are great questions to ask yourself.
They are, but how do you know if you've found that deeper connection?
Right.
Shetty stresses presence, attention. It's not just about being together, it's the quality of that time.
Quality over quantity. I can get behind that.
Right. Ask yourself, am I truly present when I'm with this person? Or am I distracted? Am I really listening?
Being fully engaged.
He uses the monk's perspective. Energy management, not just time management. Bringing your best self to the table.
I love that. Energy management.
And he introduces these 6 loving exchanges from the Upadesamarta, a Hindu text.
Okay, what are the 6 loving exchanges?
Giving and receiving gifts, food, knowledge, respect, time, and energy.
That's a lot of exchanging.
It encourages generosity, gratitude, service, all within the relationship.
Okay.
But these exchanges, they have to be meaningful, intentional. reflecting a real understanding of your partner's needs.
So it's not about going through the motions. It's about putting thought and care into how you interact.
Exactly. And then there's communication, the big C.
Communication is huge in any relationship.
It is. Shetty stresses clear communication.
Makes sense.
Don't expect your partner to read your mind.
Right.
Openly, honestly express your needs, your desires.
Create space for open dialogue, mutual understanding.
Exactly. Be vulnerable. Express yourself authentically. Listen with empathy.
It's a two-way street.
It is.
But what about when things end?
Breakups.
They're never easy.
No, they're not. Shetty reminds us that sometimes. Despite all your efforts, relationships end. It's natural. And it's important to recognize when it's time to let go.
Even when it's really hard.
Even when it's really hard.
It's like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Right.
Painful, but it lets the healing begin.
Exactly. He cautions against clinging to relationships that aren't working or hoping to change someone who isn't willing to change themselves.
You have to know your worth.
You do. And remember, true love, it's about supporting each other's growth, even if that means parting ways.
Wow, that's a powerful way to look at it.
It is, and take time to heal.
Yeah.
Process your emotions before jumping into something new. Self-reflection is key.
Okay. Understand what you learned from the experience, right?
Prepare yourself for a healthier connection down the line. Don't rush into the next thing.
Yeah. Nurture yourself. Grow from those past experiences.
Exactly. Now, ready to shift gears?
Always.
Let's talk about service.
Service.
One of the most powerful lessons Shetty learned as a monk.
Okay, tell me more.
The transformative power of service.
So think like a monk really connects that personal growth with something bigger than ourselves.
It does.
It's not just about feeling good. It's about doing good.
Yeah.
Out in the world.
He reveals that the monks, their journey wasn't just about personal enlightenment. It was about dedicating themselves to serving others.
So it wasn't just meditating on a mountaintop.
Nope.
It was about taking that inner peace and using it to make a real impact.
He shares a powerful story about a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
He and his fellow monks, they had to rely on the kindness of strangers to survive.
Wow.
At first there was fear, scarcity.
That's been humbling.
It was. They even resorted to begging for food and stuff.
Wow.
But then they realized they could earn their keep by helping the villagers, carrying heavy loads, pushing carts, stuff like that.
They had something to offer.
They did.
Even in their humble situation.
And that shift from receiving to giving, it transformed their whole experience.
Interesting. How so?
It gave them purpose, connection.
We weren't just takers anymore.
Right.
They were contributors.
And as they went on, they started noticing those who were even more vulnerable.
Okay.
The elderly, children, disabled folks. So they directed their service towards them.
That's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
like their service evolved as they understood their own capacity to give more.
It's not just about checking boxes.
No.
It's about opening your heart, truly seeing the needs of others.
That's deep.
And that brings us to Shetty's main message.
Okay, what is it?
The purpose of life is to find your unique gifts and use them to serve others.
Step into your dharma.
Exactly. Use your talents and passions to make a real difference. And it doesn't have to be a grand gesture or like a total life overhaul.
You're not saying everyone needs to quit their job and join the Peace Corps.
No, not at all. Incorporate service into your everyday life.
Starting small.
Start with those closest to you, then extend it outwards. Your community, the world.
I like that.
Look for ways to align your passions, your skills, with a higher purpose.
Okay, give me an example.
If you're a musician, use your music to uplift others. If you're a coder, develop technology that solves real problems.
I love that. Find that sweet spot where your passions and the world's needs intersect.
Exactly.
Okay, but does service always have to be totally selfless?
It doesn't. Sometimes the act of serving others brings you immense joy, fulfillment.
It's not about denying your own needs.
It's about understanding that your happiness, it's often connected to the well-being of others.
Our happiness is interconnected.
The key is intention. Approach service with the right intention, a desire to contribute, to make a positive impact.
Not about seeking recognition, it's about giving from the heart.
Exactly, and it doesn't have to be massive.
Right. We're not talking about curing cancer.
No, but even small acts of kindness, helping a neighbor, volunteering, donating to a cause, they create ripples, positive change.
I like that. Thinking about service in a more expansive way.
Shift your perspective. From scarcity to abundance, we all have something to offer.
We really do. Okay, so we've covered negativity, fear, purpose, gratitude, relationships.
And now service.
We are cruising through these monk mindset principles. It's a lot to take in, but I'm feeling inspired to actually try some of this stuff out in my own life.
That's the spirit. And it's not about mastering everything overnight.
Right, of course not. Small steps.
Exactly. Pick a few principles that speak to you.
Okay.
Start incorporating them gradually. And remember, think like a monk isn't just theory.
It's practical, too.
Very practical. Shetty gives you tools, exercises throughout the book, concrete steps you can take.
So you can actually cultivate that monk mindset.
In your everyday life. Right. He even has a Varna test.
A test?
Yeah, to help you figure out your dominant Varna.
Oh,
right.
The guides, leaders, all that.
Exactly. It's
Wow.
fun. Gives you a deeper understanding of your strengths, your motivations, how you approach work, relationships.
I like that. So it's like a personality test, but with a monk twist.
It is. So what does all this mean for you?
Right. For the listener, what are we taking away from all this?
Think like a monk gives you a roadmap
Okay.
to create a life of purpose, peace, and fulfillment.
Those are some pretty big goals.
They are, but it's about training your mind,
Yeah.
to let go of negativity,
Uh-huh.
to see challenges as chances to grow, to find joy in helping others.
And that connection, right.
Mhm.
Connecting with yourself and the world around you.
Exactly. And it's a journey. Anyone can take it, no matter who you are, what you believe, your circumstances.
That's really empowering. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope sticks with our listeners?
Ooh, that's tough. If I had to choose. The power of intention.
Intention.
Everything
Right.
you do, every thought, every action, it's all fueled by intention.
Okay, yeah.
And by becoming more aware of those intentions,
Yeah.
you can start shaping your life in a more positive, purposeful way.
That's a great point. It's not just D about what you do, but W why you're doing it.
Exactly.
So if you align your actions with your values, you can create a life that feels truly authentic, fulfilling.
Well said.
And for our listeners, if you're intrigued, pick up Things Like a Monk, dive deeper, try out the practices, see what works for you.
Yeah, it's a journey, not a race. Start small, be patient, and enjoy the ride. Until next time, folks.
Keep diving deep. I'm curious, how do we actually put this monk mindset into practice? Like in our daily lives, it all sounds great in theory, but I'm picturing myself trying to meditate on the subway, not exactly serene.
Right. Well, that's where Shetty really shines. He bridges that gap between ancient wisdom and modern living.
Okay, good, because I need that bridge.
He gives you a framework, practical steps. You don't have to become a monk to think like one.
That's reassuring. So
Okay.
where do we begin?
Start with the present moment.
Again, with the present moment. I know it's important. But seriously, how?
It's about awareness, noticing where your mind goes. Is it stuck in the past, rehashing old stuff?
Oh yeah, guilty of that. Especially those embarrassing moments.
Or maybe it's racing ahead to the future, worrying about things that haven't even happened yet.
That's my specialty. Worrying about hypothetical problems.
Shetty says, bring it back to the NOW, this moment. What are you sensing, seeing, hearing, feeling?
So it's about tuning into your senses, like really paying attention.
Exactly. And you can practice this anywhere, while you're walking, eating, even doing the dishes.
Wait, so I can be mindful while scrubbing pots and pans?
Absolutely. It's about bringing that awareness to everyday tasks. Instead of letting your mind run wild, you're choosing to be present.
I like that. It makes those mundane chores a little more, I don't know, meaningful.
And when you're present, you actually experience life more fully. Those simple pleasures become, well, more pleasurable.
Okay, I'm willing to try that. But what about all those shoulds and have-tos that clutter up my mind? You know, the pressure to constantly achieve, produce, do more. It's exhausting.
Ah, yes, the tyranny of the to-do list. That's where boundaries come in, something that monks are really good at.
Boundaries. Okay. I know those are important, but honestly, I struggle with them.
A lot of us do. We feel like we need to say yes to everything, to please everyone.
Exactly. It's like I'm afraid of disappointing people or missing out on opportunity or what matters most.
And remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's about self-respect. It allows you to show up fully for the things that truly deserve your attention, including yourself.
Okay, I can get behind that.